Hello chess fans, this is the first video of 2025, so I'm starting by wishing you all a very happy new year. Wish you all the best, lots of health, love and especially a lot of chess fun, of course. Well, before we move on to 2025, let's go back to the final days of 2024 with an amazing World Rapid and Blitz Championships. I mean, we have covered already the drama covered in the Rapid section where Magnus had withdrawn from the event, but he decided to come back for the Blitz event and qualified for the knockout stage and managed to reach the final, in which he was paired against his good old friend Ian Nepomniachtchi. Well, there is a lot of drama here in this story as well, but let me start by talking you through what happened in the final game. So it is Blitz, 3 minutes plus 2 seconds increment per game, and the first 2 games were actually won by Magnus. They played 4 games in total, so if Magnus would win or draw the next game, he would become the new or retain his World Championship title. Well, instead Ian Nepomniachtchi managed to win that game 3. So here, right now, we're going to have a look at Magnus playing with the white pieces against Ian Nepomniachtchi in game 4. It is a must-win for black, for Ian Nepomniachtchi. Well, let's check out what happened in that game. And, well, of course, apologies for maybe the quality of the sound, the video in general. I'm here somewhere at the other side of the world. Enjoying my holidays. It's really warm. I'm sweating out here, but nevertheless, I really wanted to show you and bring you all the updates on this very special game and story. And well, you can help me to grow the channel, of course, by subscribing to this channel. Thanks for all the support, and let me show you what happened in that game 4. So Magnus starts the game with 1 e4, e6. d4, d5, French defense, such a popular opening, and also Ian Nepomniachtchi had been playing it a lot in the last couple of years, and a lot of other grandmasters as well. Knight c3, knight f6, the classical Steinitz variation, e5, knight fd7, and here the trendy variation with this move knight ce2. In recent videos I've been discussing this move as well, so you can check out more on this topic. We follow the main line with c5, c3, knight c6, and here this fascinating move a3, which has become a really new trendy idea introduced by Gukesh in game 13 of the World Chess Championship match. In that game, Ding played bishop e7, but got a somewhat inferior position. But this is how it works in modern chess. A lot of top players start copying these new ideas, and Jan played here the move a5 to prevent white from ever getting in this move b4. But there's also another idea that after knight f3, black places the pawn on a4, grabbing space on the queen side. And well, if you have been following the channel in the last couple of weeks, you know that after this move h4, there was actually already another game by Magnus Carlsen against Ian Nepomniachtchi in the Champions Chess Tour finals. It's interesting that only 10 days before this final, they played another final in Oslo. And well, that game was really fascinating. Magnus managed to win in crushing style. That game continued with the move queen a5. It's an interesting move. I also mentioned that along the way there was perhaps an improvement for black to initiate repetition of moves. And well, in this current situation, Ian Nepomniachtchi needs to play for a win. So he goes for the move knight b6. He is defending the pawn on a4. The knight is heading for the c4 square, especially if the bishop comes to e3. c4 is a nice square, especially these squares on the queen side. They are quite attractive for black knights. White played the move knight f4. So here you see the knight is getting to a better square, and the path of the bishop from f1 has been cleared. And black continues playing on the queen side. So it's a very interesting battle with all 16 pawns still on the board, close position. But both sides are trying to play on the side where they are stronger. Now, obviously with the last move knight b3 is black's intention, so white anticipated that by playing the move rook to b1, so the rook will not come under an attack. Now, interesting phase. Bishop d7, white goes bishop d3, and well, you can see that if white gets a chance, he would go knight g5, and with two knights and a bishop on d3 and the queen coming out to h5, for instance, there are huge threats against black's kingside. So therefore the move h6 was played, castling kingside by white, and here queen c7. So black is also ready to castle in opposite direction. Black has decided not to reveal its cards yet too early. And what is white going to do? White's going to play on the king side, but first rook to e1 was played. Knight bc4, so the knight is more active. And after white's move knight h5, keeping an eye on that pawn on g7, making it harder for the bishop from f8 to join play, black continues with this plan of bishop b5. Very standard play, as even though it's not an immediate offer to exchange light squared bishops, it's definitely on white's mind to try to trade off white's most dangerous attacker. Now, the follow to move pawn takes c5. Now you cannot take with the bishop, as I said, because bishop got to keep that pawn defended, so black recaptured with the queen. And here the knight comes into d4. This is a very nice play by white, keeping more pressure against the bishop on b5. Also the knight is covering the b3 square, so the knight from a5 is stuck at the edge of the board. Black played bishop d7 back, keeping that bishop on the board, but it's still positioned with all the pieces on the board. Still a lot of things can happen. White played queen g4, attacking the pawn on g7, so ready to take that pawn if black is ever going to play something like g6. Well, you're weakening the f6 square, but probably there are also ideas with bishop takes g6 in the air. Looks very dangerous. It's something black should not really want to do. So instead, black went here for the move castling queenside. Interesting idea. Now the pawn on g7 could be taken. This time it doesn't come with check, as the king is far away. It is objectively speaking playable for white to proceed in such a way, but to be honest, it does look very dangerous to place your knight in the pin. Even if you're able to take a second pawn, I don't really see how white is getting out of that pin. The knight on g7 is stuck. All white's pieces are stuck defending the knight on g7. Machine says it's good for white, but it's a very good way of trying to play for a win. I really like Nepo's approach to this game. Now, instead of taking the pawn, Magnus wants to play it more solidly. The king is no longer guarding the pawn on f7, so white went for the move queen f4, attacking the pawn on f7. Now, you may consider dropping back with the bishop to e8, but queen e7 was played. It's also an interesting idea. Queen is defending the pawn. I think white is in good shape, but I'm not sure what white should do. I don't think the queen is that well placed on f4. I would rather be more flexible, that either the knight can retreat to that square or the bishop can be developed along that diagonal. So a move like queen to g3, keeping pressure against that pawn on g7 would make a lot of sense. But Magnus has a completely different idea. Probably he felt like he's controlling the situation, and he felt that it's possible here to open up the queen side, which is a tempting idea as well, but it's strategically more risky because after exchanging on b3 twice, pawns and knights are coming off the board. Black puts the bishop on c6, so the pawn is well defended here. The bishop is getting more active, and the rook on d8 also has more possibilities. White continued with bishop e3, and look at this. Ian Nepomniachtchi has to play for a win. Keep that in mind. He played here this absolutely massive idea of playing the move g5, attacking the queen, and the pawn on h4 is not a good defender, because if you do take on g5, black is going to recapture, hit the queen again, hit the knight on h5 as well, and after something like queen to g4, well, then the pawn on e5 is hanging, and you see that white's position is falling apart. It's not a good idea for white to take on g5 and open up the h file. Queen d4 played. That is what Magnus had in mind, as the queen is now ready to infiltrate on the queen side. Pawn takes h4. Black is just grabbing the material, and now the knight comes in to f6, so the knight is looking nice here. It prevents the rook from coming to g8, but it does allow bishop to g7. Now look at this, rook eb1. All white's forces are now concentrated on the queen side. Bishop takes f6, pawn takes f6, so that annoying knight is gone, and the queen comes in to c7. Everything so far is pretty well defended. If needed, the king may run away at some point via the center. Not that it's an idea you would like to implement right now, but there are also other ideas for black here. For instance, to consider a move like e5 and attacking the queen. You can put a rook on the g file, looking for counterplay. So it's an incredibly sharp position, and to be honest, remember that famous, well-known former world champion Botvinnik said that you should not analyze blitz games, and objectively speaking it's still super complicated, and apparently white is doing okay here if you go for a move like bishop f4 attacking the queen. But let's have a look. After this move queen a7, in a way it does make a lot of sense. It's a very principled move considering that white has doubled on the b file, so it's a very natural move, but it is a mistake. Rook h g8, and all of a sudden you see there is pressure now with ideas to go h3. The queen is helping both in defense as well as it's attacking the white king. There are ideas to go d4 and activate that bishop from c6. But Magnus believed probably here that he has a winning continuation with this amazing move bishop f4. But he is attacking the queen, but the bishop is unprotected and black can simply capture it. Queen takes f4, but there is a rook takes b7. Is white indeed winning? Well, that's the question. Obviously, you cannot take that rook on b7 because it runs into checkmate. White is winning in that case. But what should black do instead? There is also another threat here to play queen a8 with ladder mate with the queen and rook. What else can black do? Can black defend against the mating threat, or is there a counterattack? Well, there is this absolutely amazing blow, guys. It's rook takes g2. It's a check, and there are only three options here, either to take the rook or sidestep with the king. Well, we can simply eliminate the move king h1. It does run into the move queen h2 with checkmate. That's the first option, which doesn't work. Second option is to play king f1. The pawn on f2, it's still defended by the queen on a7, so it's not immediately mate. However, there is queen takes f2, queen takes, rook takes, king takes, and at the end of the day, that bishop can take the rook on b7, and here the material count reveals that black is completely winning with an extra knight and a bunch of extra pawns. So, after rook takes g2, the only move is king takes g2, and this is an incredibly difficult position to calculate all the options. But here there is one stunning winning idea here for black. But what should black do? It's not easy at all. You may pause the video for a second. Look, for instance, if you go rook g8, the king is just going to run away to f1, and this is actually winning for white. So that's not a good idea. The other logical move would be to play d4 to open up the diagonal for the bishop. In that case though, there's king f1, and also here black apparently doesn't have anything better than just repeating the moves. Let's go back. There is one killer blow with the move knight e3. Black is winning the game. Magnus Carlsen resigned. Why? What's the point? Well, first of all, if you do take with the pawn, now rook g8 is an excellent idea. It's check, and now the f-file has been opened, which means that the king can't run away. After king h1, you give a check with the queen on f3, and after king h2, it's queen g2 with checkmate, thanks to the rook on g8. Beautiful idea. So white cannot really take with the pawn. If you do take with the queen, looks like the queen was still working from afar back in defense, but it does allow the move d4 check, and this time, apart from giving check only with the bishop, the pawn is also threatening to take the queen. So here black is going to win a lot of material. Therefore, after knight e3, if white would continue the game, probably the move king h3 may have been considered, but that runs into queen g4 check, for instance, king h2, and once again it is checkmate on g2. So a beautiful rook sacrifice on g2 followed by a knight sacrifice on e3 enabled Ian Nepomniachtchi to tie the match 2-2, and that means that we go into overtime. The match continues with more games to be played by both players against each other, but it led to only more draws. After 4 decisive games, 2-2, 3 draws. How is this match going to end? Well, apparently the organizers had changed the regulations and there was no Armageddon in place, which means that after 3 draws in overtime, Magnus Carlsen approached Ian Nepomniachtchi like, okay, let's share the title. They liked it. They proposed it even to FIDE, and FIDE, the governing chess body, approved that decision. So we have in fact 2 World Blitz chess champions. It's very unique. It's almost never seen. I think it's never seen before in chess. I do recall some Olympic athletes sharing the gold medal in the past. I think it was in the Olympic Games of Tokyo 2020, 21, I think, during pandemic. That was a famous story, but it's very unusual, and in fact it's not something we would like to see. It would have been much better if we would have a winner at the end of the day, but who to blame here? Well, the interesting thing is that there are even people, there was a video revealed that Magnus and Ian Nepomniachtchi, they were talking behind the scenes, like in a way that if FIDE would not approve their suggestion to share the title, that they keep on playing, making short draws, and there will be no winner in the end. And yeah, you can consider that to be some sort of match fixing, but is that really match fixing? I mean, look at this game, look at the way they have been playing throughout this event. I think the players are not to be blamed here, but it's just a huge mistake by the organizers to enable players to get away with this option to make draws. And I think it's a pity for chess that it ends in another sort of scandal. Personally, let it be clear before we have any misunderstanding that I don't think that has anything to do with match fixing. I think the players really fought really hard. And I think FIDE is to be blamed here, as I don't understand why they removed the option of an Armageddon in case after a certain point it's still a tie. So that remains a mystery to me. But anyway, let me know what you are thinking. You see, in the meantime, I'm sweating here terribly in my room at the beach. I think it's enough for now. We will definitely hear more about this exciting development. What's going to happen next year in 2025? Let me know. What do you think? And well, thanks for watching. See you soon again.